Hi and welcome back to Garden Ninja for the April Garden Ninja Garden Tour. I've got loads to show you in the garden this month, including a prehistoric plant, some exciting news about garden rescue, and also a new addition that's going to happen in the garden this year. So grab yourself a brew, get some gloves on, and let's get cracking. If you've not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the red button to subscribe today. Also click the bell for notifications. We'll have access to hundreds of garden design hints, tips and hacks from me, the Garden Ninja. And best of all, it's free. A number of you on social media have been asking, when is the next season of Garden Rescue out? And the good news is it's out on the 9th of May on BBC One. Now I did 19 episodes last year and I can't wait to show you some of my wildlife friendly, innovative designs, and you can see who wins on each show. This year I've got another 20 designs that I've already finished, but that'll be coming out next year. So I've also got some really exciting news. Now, if you've watched my videos, you'll know that I'm an organic gardener that loves to encourage wildlife, not only here at Garden Ninja HQ, but in all the designs and gardening work that I do. And last weekend, I went on a beekeeping course. And I've always wanted to keep honeybees, and I'm really excited to start to take that step to having my own hive. Now behind me in the corner is where the hive is ultimately going to live. Now, I've still got quite a bit of training to do in practical sessions, but as we move through the course of the year, hopefully I'll start with my first hive. I'm going to keep you posted on all the progress. Now beekeeping isn't for everyone, but given the fact I've got a rather large garden and all of that wildflower meadow behind me, I think this will be a prime space to help encourage bees to the garden and give Mother Nature a helping hand. Now at the beginning of this video I said I was going to be planting something really prehistoric, and if you look behind me at this large deep hole, you'll start to get an idea of what I'm up to. Now I'm going to be planting a Gunnera manicata here, otherwise known as giant's rhubarb or dinosaur food. Now they grow absolutely humongous and I've always wanted one but never had the space or the ground conditions for them, because really they're a bog plant. So in this part of the garden it's really damp. The water runs off the rest of the field running down here to a soakaway, so it's a prime condition because it's always quite damp. But Gunnera as a bog plant will need a lot of moisture. So what I'm going to do is line this hole with a piece of plastic sheeting, put some small drainage holes in, and create almost like a mini bog in this area. To make it look neat, I've got a Corten steel tree ring behind me that's going to edge the circle so that I can mow around it. I've excavated the soil and I'm going to need to mix that in with a lot of homemade compost. Because Gunneras grow so big every season, they need loads of feed. So I'm going to mix that together and then show you the Gunnera. Now because Gunnera is a bog plant, it needs to be in damp soil pretty much all year round. If I don't line this hole with some plastic sheeting, what may happen in the summer is that the hole may dry out and the Gunnera will either struggle or, worst of all, die. Now I've got this piece of plastic sheeting that I've used when I moved house. I think it had a mattress in it, so I'm recycling it. I'm going to put it in the hole now, but I'm also going to add some small drainage holes, because what I don't want to do is completely saturate the plant, because although it's a bog plant and it lives near streams, rivers, embankments, there still will be some drainage going on. If you were to completely line the hole and pop that in, you're just going to end up with a pond in essence. It will go stagnant, it will smell, that will die. So I'm going to line this hole now with this and then put some drainage holes within this liner. Now sometimes the best way is just to get into the hole with the liner, and then I'm just going to make a very rough trim around the top. So I've cut it so that it protrudes higher than the level of the turf. Now it's not going to be like that forever. What I'm going to do is put my drainage holes in, and then use my mix of topsoil and compost. And I'm going to a 2/3 topsoil to 1/3 compost, so it's really moisture retentive. We know it likes boggy conditions, we know it's going to need feed, so that compost is going to help really enrich this soil. But before I do that, I'll put some drainage holes in, both in the side and in the bottom, which will slow down the drainage but will still allow for drainage, which is really important. So now that I've done that, I'm going to backfill it. Once it's full, I will then trim this to below the turf level, so it sits just below the top, which means that water isn't just going to sort of spill out all over the turf. It will give a bit of leeway for sort of precipitation of water if this does start to get really wet in the winter. Come on, Basbo. So I've backfilled the hole, and I've also compacted it using my heels by walking all over it, making sure that it's all been compressed. And whenever you're digging a hole for a tree, a shrub in a garden, you'll often find that if you dug it out and then put the soil back in, there'd be far more soil than there originally was. And that's because you've dug it through, you've added air, it's fluffed up. So you need to compress it, because if not, when you water it over the next few weeks, it will sink and you'll end up with a bit of a void. So this is slightly proud, because I know that there's going to be enough soil to fill this hole once it compresses. Now, I've got this gorgeous Core 10 steel tree ring here. Watch out, Basbo. Now, this is going to sit, look at that, almost like I planned it, in this ring, which will allow me then to mow up and over the edge, keeping a really crisp line. If I don't have this, what will happen is the grass will start to migrate into the Gunnera bog pit. It'll start to look really messy. So sometimes I use these on trees that I need to be really formal. Other trees in the garden, I let the grass grow up. It's entirely up to you. But with something like this, with this mini bog garden, I really need this, or else it's going to be a bit of a calamity. So I've measured twice, cut once, and once that's in position, you just slowly work around, pushing in these spikes. And then I need to go and get a hammer and tap this down until it's at the level just below the turf. Ta-da! Now, don't laugh, size isn't everything. This Gunnera is probably only about a year old. It's been contained in this pot. It's a little baby one. There's a few little weeds actually, get rid of them. However, I've had it sat in a bowl full of water for the past month, and I've seen it already put on some growth. Now, I'm going to plonk it bang in the middle. Yes, it's going to look ridiculous until it puts on some growth, and people are probably going to go, what on earth is that over there? And then I can say, it's a Gunnera manicata. It's a giant's rhubarb. But over the course of this year, next year and the year after, it's going to bulk up. But I thought this would be a really nice experiment, and I can show you this every month to show how it's developing. But it will easily outcompete the medlar and the sweet gum behind it for the next couple of years. So I think this is going to be a real focal point. When I'm in my house in the kitchen, I'll be able to look out and see these huge leaves, and in the middle of summer, Barry will be able to sit underneath in the shade and get out of the midday sun. So let's pop this in. Now I'm going to give this not just 1 or 2 watering cans full, but 4. And the reason for that is earlier on I said that all this soil is going to settle, and if we're creating a bog garden, it needs to be damp. So I need to increase the moisture that will be retained by that plastic sheeting with the drainage. Now, a few of you on social media have been asking about invasive plants, and I just want to clear up a few things. Now, there are a few really invasive plants that you shouldn't plant in the UK, things like Himalayan balsam and some forms of rhododendron that are considered invasive. They're not good for wildlife because they dominate and create a monoculture that swamps out everything else. However, thuggish plants are very different, and they kind of get wrapped up in the same bad reputation. But if you have a look down here, we've got this gorgeous Galium, this sweet woodrush. Now this is considered a real thuggish plant. You wouldn't want to plant it in your garden borders unless you had loads of space. The reason why I've planted it here is that it's under a tree and it's a really dry, inhospitable place. We've got a few roses that I look after with mulch and feed, but otherwise this area would be barren. So if you've got a really awkward border that's dry, maybe somewhere down a driveway or in the shade, sometimes thuggish plants like this woodruff can really help colonise the area and provide a green screen. So really what I want to say is that some plants are thuggish, and if you've got a really neat formal garden, you don't want them. But if you've got awkward areas, why not consider a thuggish plant to take over? Because the benefit of that is that you've got lower maintenance, and it means that you can use things like this as a weed suppressant. Just food for thought. Now April is a prime time to start supporting your plants before they need it, and if you do it now it means that they will look far more natural than trying to stake and support plants in June and July. Now you can use all sorts of different things to support your plants, but I really like these metal C supports here, and they tend to rust and go a really nice rusty bronze colour that just hides away in the garden. Now my other top tip for using these is get ones that are bigger than you think you need, because you can always push them into the ground further than you need them, but if they're too short then there's not much you can do about that. This Nepeta behind me here is supported by two of these clips, and you literally just push them into the soil around the plants when they're relatively short, and then it will help brace them, especially if you've got plants that are prone to flopping over like this Nepeta. The same with things like delphiniums and lupins. So get out into the garden and start giving your plants the support they need. Have you got gardening questions that you need answers for? Well, why not head over to the Garden Ninja forum on my blog, where you can ask me anything about gardens, plants and garden design. There's a whole army of other garden ninjas there that can help provide answers to your questions. It's a really great way to meet the other ninjas, so head over there now. And that brings us neatly to the end of the April garden tour. I hope you've enjoyed what I've been up to this month. If you've got any comments or questions, drop them below, or why not visit my site gardenninja.co.uk, where you can join in with the online gardening forum. There's also hundreds of garden design hints, tips and hacks both on my YouTube channel and Garden Ninja blog. I've been Garden Ninja, I'm off inside for a brew. Happy gardening.